right, hello everyone. Welcome back to the Ecotarium for another Keeper Chat on Facebook Live. It is a beautiful day here at the Ecotarium, so we thought it would be appropriate to do an outside species. If you haven't guessed already, our outside species and our special guest stars of the day are our ravens. So we have two ravens here at the Ecotarium. We have Jan and Poe, those are their names. Jan and Poe are common ravens. They are native to mostly the western United States, Canada, Mexico, down in Central America. But they are making a comeback to the eastern and midwestern U.S. They were poached and hunted and had quite a bit of habitat loss, but they're coming back. So Jan and Poe here are, like I said, are common ravens. They are a little bit skittish around people, but they're doing pretty well. We're feeding them some fish, making sure they know they're doing a good job for being nice and loud. Jan and Poe came to us from a rehabber. They were quite little, and then they got imprinted on humans, so they're not able to be released. And being imprinted on humans just basically means that they're way too comfortable with people and they would not be able to survive in the wild on their own. So they call the Ecotarium home, and we give them a pretty good life here. So what I'm feeding them right now is a little bit of fish, a little bit of grapes, some mealworms, some apples. They have a highly adaptable diet. They're very good at scavenging. And they're opportunistic feeders, so whatever they can find, they usually eat. Let's see if we can get them to come a little closer. So they'll eat meat and fish of all kinds. They love vegetables. They love fruit, insects. They'll feed on carrion, and also even garbage sometimes. If they have really no other choice, they're comfortable eating garbage. So our ravens are very, very intelligent birds. They belong to a family of birds called corvids. Corvids are notorious for being very smart birds. They're very good at problem solving and solving puzzles. That also makes them very good at retaining memory. So they'll also retain what they learned and where they learned it. That comes into play when they eat, because they'll take their food, they'll eat their fill of it, and then they'll cache the rest around their habitat. So that means that they'll take their extra food and they'll stuff it in every nook and cranny. Sometimes they'll bury it under the post, sometimes they'll bury it under toys, sometimes they'll put it in the walls. But they do remember where they put it, and they'll come back to it later when they're hungry for a midnight snack.
Hannah, we did just get one question in. What is the difference between a raven and a crow?
That is a great question, one of the most common questions when we talk about our ravens. So ravens in general are larger birds. You can think of a raven as like the size of a red-tailed hawk, and a crow is about the size of a pigeon. Crows are much smaller. If you see a crow or a raven up in the air, you can tell the difference. Our ravens have a wedge-shaped tail, which kind of has a point in the center. If it's a crow, it'll be a fan shape, so it'll be smooth all around like a semicircle. Ravens also soar and glide like a hawk. And crows will more consistently flap like you think a bird would.
That is so cool.
The noise that she's making right now is a banging sound that they do because they're imprinted. So, like, they make that weird chirping noise. They sort of puff themselves up and put themselves down and chirp like that to be like, "Hi, Mom, I'm starving." Our ravens are always starving, I tell you. But they love making that little noise and be like, "Hi, please feed me." Since she's been a little neglected with Focus, she's hiding over here. She's more cautious of our birds, rather than her sister here. So she's trying to be like, "Hey, don't forget about me. I'm still over here. I also want food." Huh. You want a snack? Can you come over? Come on. Can you come over here? Try to climb through a ceiling.
do here at the Ecotarium, since our ravens are a bit more skittish than people, we're always trying to put positive association with keepers and other staff. So we'll have people come in and give them some treats. That way they get used to people and are comfortable with people. And then that plays into their other training. So if they're comfortable with us, they're more comfortable with us getting close, with us maybe touching, with them touching us. And that's very important in training because here at the Ecotarium, we like to have our animals participate in their own medical care. So we always want that to be a choice and we want them to be comfortable. So instead of us either picking up the bird or putting the bird in a crate, we can have our bird step right onto a scale. It's very stress-free and they're voluntarily allowing us to get their weights. So right now, Jan and Poe are getting trained to step up on a keeper's arm. They're also getting trained as positive association with people. They're getting trained to step on a scale. And they're not being very cooperative right now. But if you finger tap to a branch, they usually come right to you, and you can toss them a snack for that.
Hannah, we got one more question here. How do you challenge such a smart bird to use their brain?
That is a great question, and we really do have to think outside of the box a lot when it comes to enriching our ravens. Since they are so smart and they are really great problem solvers and puzzle solvers, we give them lots of fun enrichment. They love puzzle feeders. They also love manipulating objects and using tools. So a lot of times we'll give them little cups that they move around. They'll bury them. They get little army men that they bury, and they get hanging toys like this rope. So a lot of common bird toys work well. We have one hanging there. And also, we usually try to give them a forage feed instead of giving them a bowl. We like to scatter their food so they have to go hunt for it, and then they can cache it and go back to it later if they wish. But it is quite challenging when you have a very, very smart animal. You always have to be on your toes and thinking of new ways to make them think and have a fun and interesting time.
Oh, alrighty, we got another one already. What is their lifespan?
That's a great question. So they actually live much longer than you'd think. Under human care, they can live to be over 50, which is incredibly long for a bird. But in the wild, they usually don't live above like 10 to 20 years. So under human care, they often receive exceptional medical care and vet care. They get a balanced diet. They don't have to worry about starvation. They're protected from predators. So living here at the Ecotarium, we eliminate a lot of the things that would decrease their lifespan, so they live much longer with us.
That is awesome. And another question already. Where can you find ravens in the wild?
So you can find ravens in the wild. They like to pick habitats that are nice and wooded, like forests and woodlands. That gives them a lot of cover from their predators, which can include a lot of other birds like owls and hawks, maybe perhaps eagles as well. They live in woodlands and forests along rocky coastlines, but as I said, they like to inhabit Canada, the western United States, down into Mexico and Central America. They are making a comeback here in the eastern U.S. and the Midwest as well. So we have two ravens, Jan and Poe. Jan is typically more people forward. She is not as shy, not as hesitant. She'll normally come forward more. Poe is a little bit more reserved, which is okay by us. She does come and sits on branches for us, and we'll give her treats and snacks.
That is so cool. We actually just got another question, Hannah. Can they really talk?
They can talk. So since they're so intelligent, they do use their vocalizations for communication. Although we don't really understand it, we can pick up on a little bit of the cues that they're asking for. Sometimes they'll make a certain sound because they're hungry. A lot of times they'll make a certain sound because they want attention. And since they are so social with people, they are imprinted, they do love attention. But they do communicate with each other, and they also can communicate with other species. So a lot of times ravens will develop a symbiotic relationship with other species to get food, which is also intelligent. So let's say if a predator brings down some type of animal and leaves their carcass, ravens can communicate with each other to go to the carcass. And sometimes they'll even actually play dead near the carcass to tell other animals, hey, this actually killed me, don't eat it. And then they'll call their friends over and they'll eat it together.
Wow.
So they do communicate.
Do ravens like to play with toys?
Ravens love to play with toys. You can think of their intelligence along the line of a parrot or macaw. So they're very intelligent. They love to play with all their toys. We're constantly in rotation of different toys in different areas of their habitat. That way they're never getting bored. They're always having something interesting to play with. Kind of like very noisy toddlers.
They even play with their mom.
Yes, they do.
Whenever we reopen, if you come down to see our birds, right at the front of the mesh, there's a lot of the wood chips have been pushed underneath. And that's when they're caching. They do behaviors like that, and then also they just have fun picking up wood chips and shoving them under things. So Ralph, our turkey golfer who lives next door, loves me doing that. He's a bigger fan of not pushing things around like that. He does like playing wood chips and not pushing them under things. These guys, you have to replace their wood chips all the time because they push them straight off the front.
Also, our ravens do stay outside all year long. We do have a secondary indoor habitat if they ever get chilly. But since they are native to this area and upper parts of Canada, they really don't mind the cold, but they also love the sun. So it's a great day. Do you have any other questions, John?
I think that is it at the moment. I actually have a question, Hannah.
Yeah.
I know you already said how you can tell the difference, but at the moment, who is Jan and who is Poe?
So it is hard for keepers to tell just because they look almost identical. Jan is over here with them. Actually, I think this is Poe. Poe tends to be more reserved, so she'll stay towards the back of the habitat or as far from people as she can if she's uncomfortable. Jan's okay over here, kind of hanging out with Sam, getting some snacks, so you can tell which one's which by who's more forward and who's more hesitant. Sometimes that is difficult to tell.
Already another question. Can I have a raven as a pet?
It is not a good idea. They are very needy animals, and they are wild, so we here at the Ecotarium are very well equipped to handle wild animals. We have lots of staff, we have lots of time. People at home usually don't have those things to properly care for these animals, so you would need to dedicate basically your entire day to making sure that these animals are enriched, that they're healthy, and it's just not a good idea to keep wild animals as a pet.
They're also incredibly destructive.
Yes, they do destroy quite a bit of things. They like to rip and tear things apart. But like I said, they use tools, so sometimes they'll pick up rocks and different pieces of mulch. So you don't want that really in your home.
And another question. Could you put a band on their feet to identify them easily?
Yeah, so we want to be able to do that voluntarily. We don't want to have to force them into care. So that's why we're doing all of our training for right now, to get them more accustomed to people, so we're able to put those bands. They actually did have bands at one point, but since they are so intelligent, they found a way to get them off. So we have to figure out maybe a new technology or a new material to be able to withstand the ravens themselves. You gonna stay there?
Running out of food.
All right, so do we have any more questions before we wrap it up?
That is it.
All right, so we'll wrap up today with our ravens. They're very excited for people to come back. They do miss all of the attention from all of our visitors. So next time you're at the Ecotarium, whenever we open, please make sure to come down to Wildcat Station and say hello to our ravens, Janet.